A funny incident at the supermarket. Hello, English learners, and welcome back to Story-Driven English. Have you ever had one of those days where a simple, everyday task suddenly goes completely sideways in the funniest way possible? You know, you're just trying to buy some milk or bread, and suddenly you're the star of a mini comedy show you never signed up for. Well, stick around, because today's story is exactly about that. It's called A Funny Incident at the Supermarket, and trust me, it involves runaway groceries, a bit of chaos, and a lot of awkward shuffling. It's a great way to practice your English listening and learn some useful vocabulary in a fun context. And hey, if you love learning English through engaging and easy-to-understand stories like this one, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button right now and click the notification bell too. That way, you won't miss out on any of our future stories designed to help you improve your English skills. Ready? Let's dive into today's funny supermarket adventure. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of Tuesday that feels exactly like a Monday, but without any of the Monday energy. Mark shuffled into the brightly lit supermarket, pushing a slightly squeaky shopping cart ahead of him. The air conditioning was a welcome relief from the warm day outside. The aisles were moderately busy, filled with people doing their usual grocery runs, parents trying to negotiate with children over cereal choices, elderly couples carefully inspecting vegetables, and individuals like Mark just trying to get through their shopping list as efficiently as possible. Mark pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket. His shopping list: milk, bread, eggs, coffee, apples, bananas, and beans. Canned beans. For the chili he planned to make for dinner. He navigated his cart through the maze of shelves, the wheels occasionally catching on a stray piece of plastic or bumping gently against a display stand. He was feeling a little tired after a long day at work, and his mind was already halfway home, imagining relaxing on his sofa. He found the aisle labeled canned goods. Rows upon rows of shiny cans gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Baked beans, kidney beans, black beans, chickpeas. So many beans. Mark scanned the shelves, looking for his preferred brand of kidney beans. Ah, there they were. But of course, they were on the top shelf, the very top shelf. Mark wasn't particularly short, but he wasn't exactly tall either. He stood on his tiptoes, stretching his arm as far as he could. His fingers brushed against the cool metal of the can. Just a little further. He stretched again, perhaps a bit too eagerly. His fingers finally closed around the can, but his balance was slightly off. As he pulled the can towards him, it slipped from his grasp. Now, normally, a dropped can might just fall straight down with a dull thud. But this can seem to have other ideas. It didn't just fall, it tumbled. It hit the edge of the shelf below it, bounced outwards with surprising force, and landed squarely on top of a large, carefully arranged pyramid of canned peaches nearby. The impact wasn't huge, but it was enough. The top few cans of peaches wobbled precariously for a second, like tiny metallic dancers losing their balance. Then gravity took over. One can tilted, then another, and suddenly the top of the peach pyramid collapsed. Cans of peaches began to rain down, clattering onto the hard floor. Mark froze, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Oh no," he muttered under his breath. But the chaos wasn't over. One of the falling peach cans struck a large bag of oranges sitting in a promotional display bin at the end of the aisle. The bag ripped open, and suddenly, a cascade of bright round oranges spilled out, bouncing and rolling in every direction across the smooth, polished floor. It was like an unexpected, fruity avalanche. Oranges rolled under shelves, bumped into shoppers' feet, and scattered down the aisle like tiny orange bowling balls escaping their lane. Mark stared at the scene, momentarily paralyzed by the sheer, unexpected absurdity of it all. One dropped can of beans had somehow led to this fruit-based pandemonium. Just then, an elderly woman, Mrs. Higgins, who was carefully examining a box of tea nearby, let out a small shriek of surprise as an orange rolled directly into her path, causing her to jump back. As she jumped, the small, reusable shopping bag she was carrying slipped from her grasp, and its contents, several balls of colorful yarn and a half-eaten biscuit, tumbled out onto the floor, adding to the general mess. "Oh, dear me," Mrs. Higgins exclaimed, looking flustered as a bright green ball of yarn merrily unspooled itself, rolling towards the growing pile of peaches and oranges. Mark snapped out of his shock. "I'm so sorry, oh my gosh, let me help," he stammered, rushing forward. He bent down to try and stop the rolling oranges, but they were surprisingly fast and slippery. He managed to corral one, then another, but it felt like trying to catch raindrops in a storm. He shuffled awkwardly on his hands and knees, trying to gather the runaway fruit. Meanwhile, a young supermarket employee named Sarah, identifiable by her bright green apron, had heard the commotion, the clattering cans, Mrs. Higgins's shriek, the thudding of oranges. She hurried down the aisle, her eyes widening as she took in the scene. Peaches, oranges, yarn, a biscuit, and Mark scrambling on the floor like he was playing a very strange game of marbles. "Goodness me. What happened?" "Here?" Sarah asked, trying to sound calm and professional, though her voice had a slight tremor of bewilderment. It was me," Mark confessed, still on his knees, holding 2 oranges and looking up sheepishly. "I dropped a can of beans. It sort of escalated." He gestured vaguely at the chaos surrounding them. An orange chose that moment to gently bump against his knee as if agreeing with him. Mrs. Higgins, recovering from her initial shock, was now looking at the scene with a mixture of annoyance and grudging amusement. She pointed a slightly trembling finger at Mark. "Young man, your beans caused quite a ruckus. My knitting." She gestured towards the green yarn, which was now tangled around a can of peaches. "I am so sorry, madam," Mark said again, feeling his cheeks flush red with embarrassment. He carefully placed the oranges he'd caught into his shopping cart and started trying to gather the spilled cans of peaches. Sarah knelt down to help, efficiently starting to pick up the oranges and put them back into a spare shopping basket she had grabbed. "It's okay, accidents happen," she said kindly, though she couldn't help a small smile twitching at her lips as she untangled the green yarn from a peach can. "Let's get this cleaned up." Other shoppers had paused, watching the unfolding drama with curiosity. Some looked sympathetic, others slightly amused. A small child pointed and whispered loudly to his mother, "Mommy, look, that man is playing with the oranges." Mark wished the floor would swallow him whole. Together Mark, Sarah, and even Mrs. Higgins, after retrieving her biscuit and tutting softly, began the cleanup operation. Mark carefully stacked the fallen peach cans, checking for dents. Sarah gathered the oranges, her movements quick and practiced. Mrs. Higgins managed to rewind most of her runaway yarn, occasionally swatting playfully at a stray orange that rolled too close. As they worked, the initial tension and embarrassment started to fade, replaced by a shared sense of the ridiculousness of the situation. Mark caught Mrs. Higgins's eye as he handed her back the untangled ball of green yarn. She looked at him, then at the pile of oranges Sarah was managing, and a small chuckle escaped her lips. "Well," she said, her voice losing its earlier sharpness, "I suppose it's not every day you see the fruit aisle trying to make a break for it." Mark couldn't help but chuckle too. "No, I suppose not. It felt like they were staging a rebellion, all started by one clumsy can of beans." Sarah stood up, wiping her hands on her apron. "There we go, most of it is sorted. I'll get someone to check these cans properly and sweep the floor." She gave Mark a reassuring smile. "Don't worry about it too much." "Thank you," Mark said sincerely. "And again, I'm really sorry for the trouble." "Think nothing of it," Mrs. Higgins said, tucking her yarn and biscuit back into her bag with newfound composure. "It's certainly livened up my Tuesday afternoon." She gave Mark a surprisingly cheerful nod and continued on her way, searching for her tea. Mark watched her go, then looked at the now relatively tidy aisle. He still felt a bit foolish, but the shared laughter had helped dissipate the worst of the embarrassment. He finally picked up the original offending can of kidney beans, miraculously undented, and placed it carefully in his cart. He decided against trying to reach for anything else on the top shelf for the rest of his trip. He finished the rest of his shopping quickly, his mind replaying the cascade of peaches and the great orange escape. He kept glancing around, half expecting another piece of fruit to make a dash for freedom. At the checkout counter, the cashier scanned his items, including the fateful can of beans. "Find everything okay today?" the cashier asked politely, oblivious to the minor disaster Mark had caused just minutes earlier. "Yes, thank you," Mark replied, managing a small smile. It was an eventful trip. As he walked out of the supermarket and back into the afternoon sun carrying his groceries, Mark shook his head and chuckled softly to himself. It was embarrassing, sure, but it was also undeniably funny. A simple, ordinary trip to the supermarket had turned into a mini adventure, a story he would probably be telling for a while. He made a mental note to be much more careful when reaching for things on high shelves in the future. And maybe, just maybe, he'd buy his beans from a lower shelf next time, just in case the peaches and oranges decided to hold a grudge. The image of rolling oranges and tangled yarn brought another smile to his face. Some Tuesdays, it seemed, were just destined to be more memorable than others. And that's the story of Mark's rather chaotic supermarket trip. Can you imagine? One little can of beans causing all that trouble. It just goes to show, sometimes the funniest moments happen when things go unexpectedly wrong. Hopefully you could follow along easily and picked up some new words. Now, let's review some of the key vocabulary we heard repeated throughout the story. Listening to words in context like this is a fantastic way to learn. Key vocabulary repeated. Throughout. Supermarket. A large store selling food and household goods. e.g., Mark shuffled into the brightly lit supermarket. Aisle, a passage between rows of shelves in a supermarket or shop, e.g., he found the aisle labeled canned goods. Shopping cart, a metal or plastic basket on wheels used for carrying goods in a supermarket, e.g., pushing a slightly squeaky shopping cart ahead of him. Shopping list, a list of items that someone needs to buy, e.g., Mark pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket. His shopping list. Shelf. Shelves, a flat length of wood or rigid material attached horizontally to a wall or in a frame, used for storing things, e.g., they were on the top shelf. Reach, to stretch out an arm in a specified direction in order to touch or grasp something, e.g., he stood on his tiptoes, stretching his arm. Wobble, to move unsteadily from side to side, e.g., the top few cans of peaches wobbled precariously. Tumble, to fall suddenly, clumsily, or headlong, e.g., it slipped from his grasp, it tumbled. Bounce, to move quickly up, back, or away from a surface after hitting it, e.g., it hit the edge of the shelf below it, bounced outwards. Scatter, to throw in various random directions, to disperse, e.g., oranges spilled out, bouncing and rolling, scattered down the aisle. Spill, to cause or allow liquid or other substance to flow over the edge of its container, especially unintentionally, used here for solids too, e.g., cascade of bright round oranges spilled out. Slip, to accidentally slide or lose one's footing or grip on something, e.g., it slipped from his grasp. Scramble, to move or climb quickly but awkwardly, typically using one's hands, e.g., Mark scrambling on the floor. Embarrassed, feeling awkward, self-conscious, or ashamed, e.g., feeling his cheeks flush red with embarrassment. Apologize, to express regret for something that one has done wrong, e.g., I'm so sorry, he stammered. Chuckled, laughed quietly or inwardly, e.g., so a small chuckle escaped her lips. Incident, an event or occurrence, e.g., it was an eventful trip. Title, a funny incident. Unexpected, not expected or regarded as likely to happen, e.g., momentarily paralyzed by the sheer, unexpected absurdity. Ordinary, with no special or distinctive features, normal, e.g., a simple, ordinary trip to the supermarket. Flustered, agitated or confused, e.g., "Oh, dear me," Mrs. Higgins exclaimed, looking flustered. Try using some of these words yourself this week. Maybe describe your own trip to the supermarket even if it wasn't quite as eventful as Mark's. So, what did you think of today's story? Did Mark's funny incident make you smile? If you enjoyed learning English with us today, please give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps our channel grow. Share this video with any friends or family who are also learning English and could use a fun story. And we absolutely love hearing from you. Tell us in the comments below. Have you ever had a funny, clumsy, or embarrassing moment happen in a public place like a supermarket? Share your story. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Story Driven English and ring that notification bell so you're always the first to know when we post a new story. Our goal is to make learning English fun and effective for you. Thanks so much for watching today. Keep practicing, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.